guys, so I am starting off this video just with a little frustration, but I promise it will get better. We got a lot to do. One of the big problems I've had going on vacation like we did for 11 days was we left right when the weather was heating up. We had a very cool and long spring all the way through June. It was cool. I hardly ever topped out above 80. And then as soon as we left, it was in the mid 90s. And it's been up and down between the mid 90s and mid 80s. And the garden honestly was in shock, I think, number one. Number two, the watering up here did not work like I had anticipated. Now, I had never done a drip system like this in this type of a garden, a cottage garden. And so the issue I'm having out here is there's so many plants and they're so sporadically placed that it's really hard to get a drip emitter to each one. And what I'm finding is when I put these little, what they're called shrubblers in, they're doing a good job. So like on the trees, on the roses, you know, large permanent landscape plants. But here's a shrubler here, here's a shrubler here, and here are 3 echinacea. Now echinacea are a little more drought tolerant, so they're doing not bad. But when it comes to plants like foxgloves, they're not doing that well. So what I'm going to try is soaker hoses. Now, you guys have actually mentioned them. I had sworn off soaker hoses because years ago at our last house, that was the first type of irrigation I tried. And so whatever the type of soaker hose I had at that time, it was kind of a rubbery one, almost made out of like tires or something, I don't know. But what would happen every time is the first 5 or 10 feet of the soaker hose would flood everything, and then the last 5 or 10 feet would be dry. And so the middle ground got a decent amount of water. And that's really the only experience I had, and I wrote them off prematurely, obviously. Unless between, you know, the 10 years ago that I used them and now they have perfected the art of the soaker hose. I had bought some to saturate the ground when we were going to be doing digging. I just used it a few days ago out there in the pasture to help Bill. I ran it, you know, the night before so it would be a little softer for the tractor the next day, and it was. And what I noticed was there was no difference at all. And I had 2 25-foot soaker hoses put together. So 50 feet of soaker hose, there was not one bit of difference between the first 5 feet and the last 5 feet. It was consistent all the way through. So what I'm doing this morning is a little test. I unscrewed the drip irrigation and I screwed the soaker hose in, and I just ran it through this bed. And I'm gonna run it for 15-20 minutes, just like the drip does. And then I'm going to dig down and see what kind of coverage I have versus the drip. The drip just ran this morning, so we'll be able to tell on this side versus this side. While we're letting that run, I'm going to take you over here and show you the main focus of what I've got to do over the next couple of days, and that is a complete overhaul of the vegetable garden. Now, if you watched my tour on Next Level Gardening after we got back from vacation, I showed you that some things did okay here and some things didn't. And it was, again, just the heat. The heat was, this is a south-facing garden, and so it was just blasted with heat the whole time we were gone. Because we had such a long, cool spring and early summer, there were still spring plants growing, flowers and vegetables, and I just left them because they were doing their thing. Suffice it to say, they did not last through our vacation. And even some plants like zucchini, they just kind of were not doing well. Now the new growth is fine, and so I'm just going to prune off this old growth and let it keep going. I took out all of the fennel, I harvested the leeks. So in this video, we are going to just go ahead and clean this up. All right, let's go check the watering situation. Okay, this is kind of embarrassing, but I'm going to show it anyway. I was blaming the wrong part of the system. This cottage garden is split into 3 sections, 3 zones. This zone over here is 1. This area here is 2. And then the pumpkins and vegetables over on this far side are 3. Zone 1, I've known that it's been working because I hooked a dripper up to this bird bath to fill it up every day, and it's been filled every day. I just assumed it was bad coverage, and that's why certain things were living and certain things weren't. But then when I came over here and dug down right next to an emitter, it's completely bone dry. And this is supposed to be running every day. So that's zone 2. Now I walked over to zone 3 in the pumpkins, and the ground under the drip line is wet. The ground around this pear tree and the shrubler is wet. So now I'm thinking zone 2 was not coming on. Like ever. Is that possible that it hasn't been watered in like 3 weeks? I mean, everything surely would be completely dead. So I'm running zone 2 right now, and then I'm going to dig down and see how wet it is. As far as the soaker hose, it was on for 15 minutes, and we've definitely got lots of moisture down there. Now, how far you should space soaker hose, I'm not sure if you guys know that. So here they're spaced about, I don't know, a little more than a foot apart, and we do have dampness in the middle. Here they're a little further apart, but it is damp down there. However, now that I finally have a firm grasp of what's going on, these were getting drip irrigation. Watering's always the biggest issue here. For those of you who always complain that, I have, nice weather all the time, we don't have winters to deal with, we've got our issues. When you don't get rain from, April to November or December, it's a whole other host of issues. In my defense, and it's not much of one, but I was going based on, and I'm not sure if you can tell here, but the stain here, or the wet looking area there, and then there's one right there. And I thought that was every morning when this turned on, that was the overflow. I'm thinking now that got permanently stained because it's not wet underneath. I think it got permanently stained the day before we left on vacation when I had all that water pouring out. Watering is, but hopefully will not always be, my main enemy in the garden. All right, this just finished running for 25 minutes. And so this is how it should look in the morning. Wet. It's still hard, it needs to be watered more, but this has obviously not been running at all the whole time we were gone. So I'm gonna need to check the settings on the sprinkler timer for that zone, and hopefully that means it will all work and I won't have to buy more soaker hoses. I'll keep you updated. So I hope you're not sick of seeing me struggle with things. I could cut them out. I choose not to, because I know you guys all have issues as well. And if you just see people on YouTube having perfect gardens and an easy time getting there, I'm here to tell you, whether they show it or not, everyone has challenges. That's the name of the game in gardening. You're always going to be dealing with issues, whether it's pests or watering or disease or weather. There's always something. If you just enjoy the process and learn to roll with the punches, eventually each time you're going to learn from it, and it's going to make you a better gardener. I mean, this is true with anything in life, right? So right now, while we're all struggling with heat and whatever other issues you're struggling with, like watering, it's funny, I still look forward to, I'm definitely looking forward to the cooler weather coming up in 6 weeks or so, and transitioning into a fall garden, or maybe some of you are transitioning into a break, which is fine. I don't hold that against you. If you've never done a fall garden though, I highly recommend it. It is my favorite. People ask me what my favorite season is. Summer would be my last. Of the 4, it's the last. I think my favorite season by far is spring, followed by fall, and then winter, and summer is a distant 4th place. Now we're gonna head over and tackle the summer mess in the vegetable garden. All right, we got a mess here with the zucchini, and we got to take care of that. So I'm going to show you, if you have, well, it's not zucchini, it's yellow squash, but same thing, how to clean these up and not only take some of the disease risk away with these unhealthy, dead, dying leaves, but just to make it look better and to fit more new plants in around them. So we're just going to start at the bottom where it comes out of the ground and just start cutting all the dead leaves off. Now look how much nicer this plant looks Then this one. Now these are both, this one more than that one, are hanging out into the aisle. And so with care, you can maneuver these where you want them. Gently, I'm going to reposition this one over this way. Just keep in mind where the stem goes into the ground. And these leaves might look all wonky, but the sun will straighten them out. This one now, wondering how much I can twist it. There we go. There. Now that leaves me all this space I didn't have before. Up until July, you want to cut off these runners on your strawberries. They take energy away from the rest of the plant and the fruiting, and especially in the first year, you want the plant to grow as much as possible. These runners, though, are all potential baby strawberry plants. So in July, you can stop cutting them off, and then what you can do, take a little container of potting soil, and you take this, and what you want to look for is this thicker part here at the bottom where it turns up and becomes the leaf. And you want to take a landscape staple or a bobby pin, put it right in there like that, and anchor it down until that thick point is touching moist soil. And within a week or two, that's already going to have grown roots, and you can just snip this off and take the plant and plant it wherever you want it. Another place to do it is just right in the ground. Move the mulch away, get down to some moist soil. This one was already on the moist mulch, so it's starting roots already. But just go ahead and anchor it down with a landscape staple. Make sure it's all watered, and you're going to have a new plant there in a couple weeks. All right, it's looking a little more bleak, especially compared to this time last year. However, it looks clean. So now I need to plan a trip to the garden center to get some plants to fill in the gaps now. However, I got to figure out how many more warm season plants do I want when cool season fall gardening is right around the corner. So I'll figure that out, and maybe I'll take you with me. So it's a few days later, and yes, in fact, Zone 2 did not get watered for almost a full month. There are casualties and blank spots, but I gotta say, 96-degree weather and no water. And they said an English garden couldn't be done in Southern California. I'm pretty impressed. I'm gonna take notes of which ones did the best with zero water so that I know going forward, if they have, a regular amount of water, what's gonna really do well. Or in a pinch, what would hold over or at least keep trucking on even if it's not thriving with no water or very little water at all. I checked the timer, and I don't know why it took me 2 weeks to do this, but when I flipped to the different days on Zone 2, they were all off. So now that I've turned them on, they are working. It's watering every other day. And as you can see, things are looking a little bit greener, a little more full of life. Yes, there were casualties, but we've got a lot of little miracles in here. And I've got the same decision here in the cottage garden as in the vegetable garden. Do I fill in spots with summer plants, or do I go ahead and get seeds started for fall? Something to ponder. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. In the next video, we're going to be finishing the roof on the cottage. Believe it or not, it's going to happen. See you then.